From blueprints to booming businesses, from groundbreaking to grand openings, this is Beyond the Blueprint. Join host Brad Howard as he takes you behind the scenes of growth and development in Mooresville, Lake Norman, and beyond. We're talking with the decision makers, the planners, the visionaries shaping our communities, giving exclusive insight into what happens before, during, and after projects that define our region. The future is being built right now. Let's go beyond the blueprint.
Good afternoon. Thank you to those tuning in on the radio on 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM, on social media, on WSSEnews.com, and on demand with the WSSE News app. I'm your host, Brad Howard, and today we are joined by Kevin Kidd, a motorsports consultant. He's been in the NASCAR industry for 25 years, most recently with RFK Racing, where he led competition for 7 years. Most recently was in charge of all technology initiatives for the company. A graduate of Virginia Tech and currently pursuing his executive MBA from MIT. For those of you who may not know Kevin, welcome to the show. And who's Kevin Kidd?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brad. It's a pleasure to be on. Kevin Kidd, who is he? He's a journeyman motorsports guy. Started really young in life with passion for racing cars. I have to blame that on my dad and family in general. And we raced on the amateur level at a really young age, probably 7, 8 years old was the first time I can remember going to a racetrack. And I got the bug and just never turned my eye off that ball and kept pursuing it. I think it was probably early in high school that I kind of laid my stake in the ground and said, hey, I'm going to make a career out of this. And so then I just charted my course from there to make that a reality.
Now, that's actually an interesting point. So in high school, you knew this is where you wanted to go. Was that in driving the cars or was that in the technology side of the
Yeah, it was more around the technology side. So I have a brother and he took the driving hat and did all that. I was the crew chief guy. And between the two of us, we were a pretty good pair. But I pretty early on, like any young kid, hey, driving would be cool, and that's you're the star and all that stuff. But when I committed to say, hey, I'm going to make a career out of this, this is what I want to do. Given that option of driving or engineering them, it was pretty obvious to me which path had a little bit more greenway to actually go make a career out of. Driving was going to be really hard. Being an engineer, there was a lot more opportunity, and the actual ability to make that a reality was there.
Again, that's an interesting point. Is for listeners and for people in the listening area, the option and opportunity things. Obviously, what year was that in when you made that decision?
Yeah, that was probably 92, 93, somewhere in there.
So things are a lot different now
Yeah.
with what the schools offer. So I'm sure there's trade programs that can start kids that maybe want to go in that direction. Can you give any guidance or advice, or maybe you know of the programs that are offered in Iredell County or Mecklenburg County?
Yeah, absolutely. So, young high school student, if they decide that this is what they want to do for a living, I think the first decision to make is, there's a lot of different options within motorsports that you can do. You can, be an engineer, you can be a mechanic, fabricator, you can be, on the business side of the house and doing marketing initiatives and sales and everything else. So you kind of have to choose probably one of those somewhat early. And upon choosing that, if you choose the engineering path, then it's, really, my recommendation to anybody on that path is to find a good school and go get a mechanical engineering degree. Mechanical engineering is a very broad stroke engineering degree, and you cover a lot of different disciplines, all of which apply to motorsports. If you want to be a fabricator or a mechanic and just be a tradesman, yes, there's plenty of programs, here in Iredell County and Mooresville that you can kind of get involved with. And to be honest, probably the best thing is just go find a late model team and go to Hickory and just race on the weekends and help them out at nights. That hands-on experience really is very beneficial for the folks wanting that path. And if you're on the business path, it's very similar to the engineering path. Figure out business school where you'd want to go, and a lot of folks down that path are probably either in the PR side of things, so journalism majors find their way in quite often, or just anybody in the marketing field.
Okay. And, what we're talking about with engineering is when we were having lunch, we were talking about this topic and we ended up on energy. So we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
So if you go into this field, it's not limiting to just motorsports.
That's right.
And the skills and the technology sets that are all around here that the diversity of skills and experiences that we have in this market hopefully will open the door to more things that we haven't even thought about yet,
Yeah.
utilizing technology. And especially, again, after the lunch that we had, opened my eyes to the potential of what's out there.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the mechanical engineers, we're the jack of all trades but master of none kind of engineering discipline of the world, and really what that means is you're knowledgeable enough about a lot of different topics that you can apply those skills in all kinds of different areas. Motorsports happens to be one of them, but if you're interested in aerospace or energy or fluid dynamics, you name it. There's all kinds of ways you can take that. There's a lot of mechanical engineers that actually end up being software developers.
Really?
And most people wouldn't maybe necessarily connect that together,
I wouldn't.
but mechanical engineers, a lot of times we need to get a job done, and it's a very analytical job, and there may not be a tool out there available for you to get that job done. So you go write the code yourself and just
Figure
make
it
it
out.
happen.
I like it.
And then
you bootstrap it.
that's
I
right.
like it.
Yeah.
So so talk about how how being in Mooresville created was a unique community for the technical resources and collaborations around the engineering software side that you're in.
Yeah. So, I came to Mooresville for the first time in 2001. Graduated college on a Saturday, and I was racing the Coca-Cola 600, on Sunday, and I was in my apartment, Monday morning, and basically haven't looked back since. And when I look at Mooresville then, it was very cutting edge for 2001 in the amount of resources that were in town to go race with. The racing industry spawned, even back then, a lot of different resources that just weren't available anywhere else. It became the hub for NASCAR racing. That's only grown on an exponential curve since that time.
Yeah, about that time, I think we had a couple of properties in Lakeside Business Park, and back then everybody was in NASCAR. There was no other deviation except for us. We were one of the few. We were a manufacturer, but
yeah, absolutely. And I just look at like anytime an industry gets set up in a location, there are things that build out around that industry to support it. And in the case of motorsports and how it works, wind tunnels and test facilities, test rigs, things like that. Now we're into simulators and all this stuff. Those are tools and technology that can be applied in all kinds of different disciplines. There are large scale OEM car manufacturers that come to the area to do their wind tunnel testing. And the same thing goes with, the simulators and everything else. So just all that infrastructure being built out really makes this area pretty impressive.
And it helps drive new, so more companies come in. So once you have the basic infrastructure in place, then other race teams start to be nearby.
That's right.
And then what you find is other industries that need folks that work in motorsports that have those skills to pull them out. Maybe it's in medical devices, maybe it's in energy, like you said. It goes across the board. But when we come back, we're going to talk about racing's digital transformation and how that impacts everything. We'll be right back. And we're back with Kevin Kidd on Beyond the Blueprint on WSIC. And we are transitioning now to discuss racing's digital transformation. How has the digital innovation and analytics reshaped the work that you've done and the entire racing industry? Go ahead and start there, and we'll take the conversation away.
2001, when I got my first job in the sport, I believe we may have had one computer on the entire campus. And
was that the one that used to wheel around on
that's
a cart?
right.
Okay, we had one of those too.
It was right.
Oh no, that was in the 90s. That was in the 90s.
It was right beside the TV and the VCR on the cart, right? So yeah, simulation and data science, none of that was even on the radar when I got started. And the industry really relied on veteran, crew chiefs and just guys who had been around the block and had a thick notebook and were able to make things happen with just what was in their head. And I would say right around the time that NASCAR switched over to what's called the COT,
What is COT?
Car of Tomorrow,
Okay.
which is actually the car of yesterday now.
Right.
When we switched over to the car of tomorrow, that was right around 2005. No, sorry, 6, 7. I think it was 7 actually.
Okay.
That car sort of changed a lot of things in the sport. We went from a car that was like really wide open. You could do all kinds of things with, and you could manipulate performance, pretty easily just by, some old school shifts of, body panels and
That
all
one where
kinds
you,
of
you
stuff.
make a pipe a little thicker so you can hold a little more fuel in it.
Yeah, that's right.
All the fun tricks. Right.
The rules got a lot tighter with
Okay.
the COT. They didn't completely fix it, but it got a lot tighter. And at that point, the car also became just a more sophisticated car. So the tools that we needed to go do our jobs with and to be able to make decisions about the cars just changed. And around the same time was like a huge injection of engineering talent into the sport. You had 2 or 3 organizations that just recognized, hey, we employ more engineers who can do X, Y, Z for us. That makes us go faster.
Right.
And so, boom, it just exploded. The sport at that time turned into largely a design, engineering, and manufacturing sport as we went through the COT era, and that lasted all the way really until, there was a couple iterations of the COT, but the general premise of how you would go race didn't change a lot from 2007, really all the way up until 2022. So there was a 15-year period there
So
where
why was the void of innovation during that period?
I wouldn't say there was a void of innovation. I would
Okay.
say it was actually just like rapidly taking off during that time period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you had was a whole bunch of engineers coming into the sport,
Okay.
and it, like I said, it turned into a design and manufacturing kind of exercise. So if you could go build a better part and design a better part, build that better part, and put it on the car, and that yielded speed, then you were better.
Okay.
And that was the
So
mechanism.
that was in the rules. So
Yeah.
there's certain things you could change.
At that time, it was
Okay.
in the rules.
Okay.
The rules were more constricted than the previous generation. However, they were still wide open enough that you could do that.
Okay.
And so that led to just a tremendous amount of investment into engineering, and the sport took off. Fast forward to the generation of car that we're on now, what's called the Gen 7 car.
Okay.
The Gen 7 car really tightened the box up.
Okay.
And so what happened there, NASCAR basically said, hey, we're going to go to, they don't like this term and I don't casually use it, but we went to a spec car basically.
Okay.
So
I
everybody has
heard
the
this.
same parts.
That's what I thought when you were talking about the other cars. So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So in 22, we're into this
Okay. Now
generation.
you're in this one.
And so with this car,
Mhm.
I can't design engineer my way out of a problem, or I can't go manufacture a different part. So a lot of the things that we did in the COT era are gone, but now it turned into really a decision making exercise.
Okay.
Who can make over the course of a preparation for an event, you're literally making thousands of decisions on a couple week run up to the race, and then once you get to the racetrack and you're going through the execution of a race weekend, it's several thousand more decisions
Right.
that all these people who are involved in the process are making. And I like to think about it as like a batting average. Who can make the most decisions correct versus incorrect typically gives themselves the best chance to win the race.
So everyone now uses the same car, the same parts, the same,
Yeah.
and they just have to decide what order, what settings, what
It's
all
it's
the
it's like a lot of process driven things, how you build the car, how you're using tolerances up within the rules, all that are small margins of performance that you're seeking.
Mhm.
The car setup, there's enough knobs there still to turn that matters a lot.
Okay.
And then once you get in the race, like, hey, what lap do I put on? How many tires do I put on? How much fuel do I put in the car? Sort of the race strategy exercise is key to the whole thing as well.
Now, how does this work? Every track's different. Every setup's different.
Yeah.
Do they have different cars for every track?
So
How do you set these cars up? What
yeah.
determines all of the background? I know we've talked some about that, and we can save that for the end.
Mhm.
But explain that.
Yeah. So really, touching on that, simulation, data science, that's driving the bus on all that these days. We have to, with the way the racing works these days, you show up to the racetrack, you get a little short practice, and then you go race. So you don't have enough time to, tune on the car before the race starts to really work yourself out of a problem.
Mm.
Um, what we are doing these days is, we're literally running hundreds of thousands of vehicle simulations, per event, pre-race, to try to solve towards an optimum setup. And then from that, you're putting them in driver in the loop simulators, and you're actually having your race car driver drive in the simulator and say, "Yeah, this feels about right," or "No, it doesn't. I need you to work on this, this, and this." And then through that iterative process, you're kind of choosing your starting setup for the race weekend. You take that to the racetrack. You get 15 minutes to get a preview on it, then you go qualify and race.
So the drivers really practice in simulators, like pilots practice in simulators before getting on the track for the race. So
Yeah.
it's not actually driving on the race
Yeah,
track.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Years ago, we would,
Yeah.
in the middle of the week, we'd be at Kentucky Speedway or Rockingham, and we'd be making, tons of
And-
laps and
adjusting the car and trying to figure it out.
experimenting and doing things. And we do a little bit of that testing, but it's all kind of roped into the rules now, and you're very limited on your opportunities to do that. So, the way we develop now is in a simulator.
So interesting. So how do you know the track? I mean, you obviously know the angles and the side, but I mean, there's temperature. There's all sorts of variables.
Yeah. Yeah. For the purposes of simulation, it goes all the way to the point of we're capturing LiDAR scans and photogrammetry of the racetrack itself, and we're creating virtual environments. So, if you've ever played a driving simulator game on Xbox or PlayStation, you kind of have a representation of what we're using. Only we're on. We've got the knob turned to 11. We're we're turned up there in terms of the level of fidelity of the model, the precision. Everything we're doing there is trying to capture that racetrack as accurately as possible. And then we put our little vehicle model in there, and we go drive it.
Right. And then you have not just that, but you have the pit crew, right? So
Mhm.
you have, I'm sure you have variables for what everyone's function and job is, and
Yeah.
all of that's in the model too, and expected on Sunday that they perform the same way.
Yeah, and so the pit crew stuff really comes into like the race strategy model,
Okay.
which is kind of a separate simulation workflow, but it's still very critical to what we do. That race strategy model is really trying to help inform the crew chief or the race engineer, whoever's making the calls on race strategy and the execution of the race. Um, you know when to make certain decisions and what is baked into that decision. And the pit crew obviously is a big part of that. So, hey, are we going to put four tires on? Well, how long do we think our pit crew is going to take to put four tires on versus just doing two tires and fuel, or all that stuff. Those simulations are running in the background. Literally every time the car crosses the start finish line in a NASCAR race,
Mhm.
that kicks off for every team out there for the most part. That kicks off another set of simulations that's trying to optimize for the remainder of the race.
Now I have a question. So while the race is going on, do you have I mean, I guess you're running the data, making sure everything's where it is, and then do you adjust based on the actual performance versus what was modeled?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of a real time correlation thing that you're working on as the race goes on. Particularly like with the race strategy model, there's just variables that you can't necessarily predict or account for very well with today's technology. I do believe that's all going to improve in the future, but where we're at today, it's still a little bit of a manual process to kind of keep track of all that stuff. And as the race is going on, we've got strategy engineers who are watching out after all those variables and tuning them as the race goes on. The idea being that your starting race prediction probably doesn't look very good in terms of accuracy,
Mhm.
but by the time we get to stage 3 in a NASCAR race, we want that model to be really, really accurate, and most times it is. to be able to predict, quite literally the running order at the end of the race from 1 to 40.
Wow. So, so on that, let's talk about digital twins and sort of tease going into when we come back from the break. Explain to the listeners, what is a digital twin,
It's the $1,000,000 question.
and how is that going to impact your world?
Yeah.
And as we've discussed with other businesses before, the new digital twin is the future of simulations and
Yeah.
engineering.
Yeah, for sure. So the digital twin, in a nutshell, it's capturing a physical representation of whatever you're modeling. So it's we talked about lidar scans. So you're actually creating this. It's not really CAD, but it's in a like a game engine, Unity or Unreal. You're capturing this physical representation of whatever it is you're modeling. But then on top of that, you're piping in real time data, and as you're piping the data in, it's showing you what's going on.
And we will continue that discussion. We'll be right back. And we're back with Kevin Kidd, and we are talking about digital twins and the virtual revolution of NASCAR and the virtual revolution of technology at the same time. So we were talking about the digital twins, and in my world, which is an older perspective, is I'm thinking of the metaverse that Zuckerberg did for Facebook.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about that. We're light years ahead of that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some of the underlying technology could be the same, but the actual purpose, the intent, and what's being accomplished with it is probably far different. These days, when you hear digital twin, and particularly as you think about it in engineering terms, how it's getting applied in the real world in manufacturing or aerospace or you name it. Um, it really comes down to taking the development process and making it more efficient. If you've got to get from point A to point B with some product that you're building, you can go physically build those things over time, and there's a lot of cost. There's a lot of waste. You're gonna wreck a bunch of stuff. You're gonna tear up a bunch of stuff, and ultimately you'll get to an answer, but it's a tedious process. Whereas with digital twin, you can do some rapid iterations. You can do some optimization, mathematically or with machine learning models. But you can really push to take what I like to tell people is like a big pile of options and narrow that down to a small pile. And then you may go build the small pile out and go crash and test them and do things to try to learn about it to make sure that all of your assumptions were right and that you're on the right path.
So I guess a practical application would be in the automotive world where they would spend years, literally years, building prototype after prototype, crashing them into walls
Yeah.
and seeing what happened. Now you can do a rapid iteration of maybe the first 10, 20, work out all the kinks,
Mhm.
all in a digital world using a digital twin, and I guess the digital twin of the environment and the digital twin of the actual car, see how it performs, and uh, then build two or three. So instead of coming to market in 3, 4, 5 years, you can come to market in 18 months or 24 months.
And you're seeing that for sure. Like the design cycle, it used to be 4 or 5 years
Hmm.
when an OEM committed to bringing a new model to market
Hmm.
versus when it was actually delivered. And now 18 months is kind of a number that they can hit. And it's all down to just the influx of engineering tools and the ability to make good decisions in a much more rapid pace.
So what are the challenges that you have in building these models
Yeah.
to work in the real world?
Yeah. So correlation is always one of the challenges. Making sure that your models, a simulation is never perfect, and it never will be perfect. There's always going to be something that maybe the physics are just too complicated to model, or maybe there's assumptions being made along the way because you don't have all the information you need to really get it right. And so, with all those little small inaccuracies along the way, you're kind of stacking pennies, and you hope you're stacking these pennies in a positive direction that ultimately correlates well to the final results. But the reality is, you may not do that. And so you kind of have to make sure that whatever you end up with a digital twin and a simulation output matches reality to an acceptable level. And if you don't, then the whole thing blows up and it's kind of a waste of time. There's a lot of energy that goes into making sure that that isn't a problem, but it's one of the big workflows that you have to get right anytime you're doing this kind of work.
Okay, so one question on that would be, what are some practical applications and products that you've worked on where you created the digital twin that actually have been produced in the physical world?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say the list is long on the race car side of things. Each week when we go racing in a NASCAR Cup Series race, I mean, we effectively have a digital twin of the vehicle. What I will say is that there's caveats to that.
Mhm.
Every man's definition of a digital twin is a little bit different, and that's where the caveats lie. I would say on the proper digital twin definition, most NASCAR vehicle models are probably not quite there, but we're closer than we've ever been. And then all the same problems, the correlation and making sure that your assumptions aren't too far astray. All those same things are relevant in our world. But we do that every week. That's a normal part of our workflow and how we make decisions these days.
Well, moving on from there, that the digital twins we talked about for motorsports. Also, there's other industries where we're doing this, and we had a, like I said, where I keep referring back to when we had lunch, and the we talked about airports, we talked about buildings, we talked about other structures. Explain what the implications are of that, and what the benefits are as we move forward. What you see in the
Yeah.
short term and in the long term.
Yeah. So if I was building anything right now, um, I would want to future proof my success with whatever it was I was building by making sure I grabbed a proper digital twin along the way. And that comes in multiple steps. As you're building, you're grabbing more and more scans, and
Hmm.
at the end of the project, you put it all together. Um, an airport is probably the most fascinating example to give on this. Um, I was fortunate to go to a conference a couple weeks ago down in Orlando, and got to sit with the gentleman who's in charge of the digital twin project for the Dallas Fort Worth Airport. Holy cow! What those guys have going on will just blow your mind. And really, when it comes down to what they're trying to accomplish with their digital twin, is I would say they are actually, by the proper definition of digital twin, they're as close to it as anything, where they have this digital model of their entire facility. So you can inspect all the way down into the wall of the bathroom and see where the pipe is going to the sink, all the way to, hey, this truck is on, adjacent to runway one, and he's headed, this direction, and all things in between. And basically, what they've built is this representation of the entire facility, but then they're populating it with live data. And so, as much as they can instrument and capture with video or sensors across the facility, or badge check-ins, like they literally in the digital twin know where people are at around the facility at all times. Um,
So they have the check-ins where the people are. They have maybe
yes,
little GPS units on all of the cars running around, and
basically, if you can dream it
it's
of
there.
what you want to measure, they are either doing it now or it's on their runway to do.
Yeah, I had a company that pitched a little thing that went on the hard hat. You knew where everybody was
Yeah,
on the job site at the same time. So you
that's
know
right.
when they entered the job site, when they exited the job site.
That's right. Yep, yep, that kind of technology, and it's all in real time. So, if there's ever an emergency or some sort of catastrophic event, or maybe it's just some simple routine process that they're going through, they can go to that digital twin in many instances across the facility. It's not like you go into the digital twin room.
Right.
Like this is prevalent across the entire campus. You basically get on a computer, log in, and boom, there it is, and here's the information that you may need at that time. and the ability to sort of segment and block things out. So
So it's like moving around in Google Earth. If you play around there
yeah,
and you're on the ground, you're 3D running around, but you can start peeling layers off
hmm and getting live
and
information.
get live data back. And
Yeah.
if this happens, that happens.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
very scary.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating. I like fascinating better. That's a better word. So we're going to transition and tease for the break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about leadership, culture in the future of racing. But also, I want to talk about the other industries, some of the other topics that we discussed that are going to benefit from this technology, especially locally, jobs being created, efficiencies being made, and how it benefits Mooresville. We're going to take a break, and we will be right back. And we're back on Beyond the Blueprint with Kevin Kidd, and I'm Brad Howard. I'm your host, and we're going to talk about the global impact of all of this in Mooresville and the region. So, Kevin, how are the teams, the technologies, and everything that's being developed in Mooresville helping to shape the future of this industry with Mooresville at the hub?
Yeah. It's really an exciting time to be a technologist and specifically in this area because the hub of not just NASCAR, but it's starting to be like North American motorsports is very much in this area. And so anytime you have a concentration of an industry, particularly one that is so tech forward as ours is, there's a lot of innovation that comes with that. And so I think what we're seeing in the greater area right now and definitely in Mooresville, you're seeing first and foremost is just an influx of talent. You're getting a lot of people. It's listen, let's not pretend and kid ourselves here. We're not Silicon Valley just quite yet, but we're getting.
Give us a decade.
That's
or
right.
two.
That's right. It's coming, but we're not there yet. But I think some of the same thought process. Why folks go to Silicon Valley? It's because the companies and the industries are there.
Right.
Well, people come to Mooresville because
The talent's here.
motorsports
Right.
is here, and the opportunities and the jobs and everything else. And so when you get that influx of talent into the community, good things just come from it.
Right.
Things get built.
Right, because the same skill sets to design what you're talking about can be used to design a medical device, Department of Defense. Sector after sector.
I think
aerospace.
the DoD is a really good one to talk about. There's so many parallels between what's going on in the DoD space versus motorsports. I mean, if you think about DoD currently today, there's with China and Russia and some of our adversaries, they're not technologically behind us any longer. In fact, there's discussions out there in certain areas where they're technologically ahead of us. And for many, many years, our strength and superiority here in the U.S. was because we were just technologically ahead. Well, all of our peers are catching up. Okay, put a bow on that and just put it off to the side here for just a second and think about motorsports and what's going on there.
Okay.
Well, in motorsports, you're racing against all your adversaries, and technologically, they kind of have all the same stuff you do. And so
you just have to be better.
That's right.
And faster.
And make better decisions.
And
more accurate decisions. And so that whole thought is what's going on in the DoD space. And I've been a part of many discussions and many, quite frankly, projects that are bringing those two worlds together because they are so similar. And the DoD space is looking at the motorsports guys saying, boy, we really like the way you guys work. You work fast, you make good decisions, and you don't have all this red tape we got to cut through. And so they're trying to take learnings and lessons from how we operate.
Right.
And conversely, we look over on their side and say, boy, you guys have all the cool toys. Let's go look at what you got. and we try to bring the two things together. And in the situations I've been involved with where we've done that, it's been a whole lot of fun, and there's been a lot of good, productive things that come out of it on both sides.
So you could make a really interesting case for a race on a Sunday with some cool toys attached to the race cars. So
that's right.
So coming out of the video game.
That would be fun.
That'd be fun. No, so the way that's going to impact us, I guess, going into the future is more high tech manufacturing, more data centers, the need for more power, the bigger things are, what are the things that we can't see that are going to be coming? But before we hit on that, how does AI impact this? Because I think there's some new legislation that's helping with that. And
AI is the elephant in everybody's room right now. It's an amazing technological development. I equate it to you know the onset of the industrial revolution, or the onset of the internet and the information age. This is a new age we are entering in. Um, it's going to be transformational for the entire world, and I doubt I'm saying anything there that most people don't already know.
but the key is not it. When we first started, I treated it like a toy.
Yeah.
Now I barely listen to the radio when I drive in the car, and I have an AI app, and I just ask it questions the whole time I drive, and I'm learning how to ask the questions
Mhm.
to get the outcome answer, which is very, because when I first started it, I was just asking the questions the wrong way.
Yeah.
But you learn how to, and there, I think there's technical terms for all this,
Mhm.
but it's amazing how much time you can save
Yeah.
and get to the answer.
Yeah. And I think that's what folks in the space are really trying to capitalize on.
Mhm.
It's the efficiencies that artificial intelligence can bring. In some worlds, it's the ability to make inference on problems and spit out solutions that, quite frankly, weren't previously possible. There's just so many different paths that this goes down that you can't possibly talk about it all in one setting. But what is very convincing to me um, is that our kids, we have kids about the
Kids the
same
same
age,
age, yeah,
they're going to live in the AI age,
right.
and as high school students,
Well, they already live in the age where the iPhone was existing when they were born.
that's right,
So
that's exactly right,
we
and
didn't have the internet was nowhere to be found. I mean,
right.
we had a TV that turned the knobs, and that was my access
Uh,
to, three
You,
or four channels.
You and I may be like one of the few still around that know what a dial-up tone, connecting to a modem sounds like.
Or the phone that you spin
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
the rotary
absolutely.
phone.
The rotary phone. So, our kids growing up in the AI age, it's you can take one or two sort of looks on this. The AI is the devil, and stay away from it, and it's just going to lead to all bad things down the road. Or you can embrace it, really, try to figure out how to use it for good in the world, and make it productive. And I believe, because humanity typically does this, humanity will find the good in this and
You'll
push it.
find both sides.
Yeah, it'll
You'll
find
find
both
both
sides,
sides.
no doubt.
Mm.
But yeah, generally, I, being a glass half full
Oh,
kind
no,
of
no,
guy, always think that the good will overweigh the bad.
and it will.
And our kids are going to be doing that. They're the ones that are going to be on that journey, figuring that out.
Right. So it's almost like, what was it, Scotty on Star Trek? Computer,
Yeah.
right? So and it used to be Siri, but now it actually, that was a little wonky. But now the AI that I talk to, I mean, it sounds like you're talking to a real
Mhm.
person, and I mean, there's no delay in response. You
Yeah.
ask the question, you get the answer. You correct it and say, no, I didn't need that exact. I need it interpreted this way. I need to know the probability of this. Uh, it's a phenomenal tool when you use it like a tool.
And the thing you have to consider is we are in the dial-up age of AI. Yeah,
But things
using the internet
But
as the
what
example.
is the metric? Doesn't technology double every year, or the
Uh,
computing capacity? Or
yes, yeah. There's a shoot. I
you're
can't
the
think.
one going to MIT,
Yeah,
right?
I can't think of this off the top of my head, but there's a law that exists that's kind of a rule of thumb
Mhm.
for this. And yes, what you're saying. It's on an exponential curve, and about every 18, 24 months, it doubles in scope. Um, and I wish I could think of the term, but it doesn't matter anyway. It's moving fast,
Yeah,
and if you don't hop on the seat and start enjoying the ride, you're going to get left behind.
yeah. It's like any technology. You embrace it. I mean, at first you don't understand it. It's like AI. I treated it like a search engine, and that was the wrong way to use it. And then
Yeah,
I had a friend, uh, really just a month or two ago, show me what it could actually
yeah,
do, and help guide me into it. And now I use it for everything.
yes, yeah,
And it helps in productivity, it helps in analytics and analyzing and making decisions. And then, I can change my mind and it'll change the outcome based on what I would do one way versus the other. The potential is endless.
Yeah. And my caution to humanity, and maybe I'm just speaking about the folks here from Iredell County that are listening to this, use it as a tool. Don't let it replace you outright.
No,
and
double check the answers.
That's right.
Always double check the answers.
Yeah, we're still in the early days of all this.
Like you said, the dial-up age.
Yeah.
A lot of the things are not correct, but the overall,
it's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, that was an interesting point. But always double check the answer.
Yep, that's right.
That is the key. So the vision for AI automation, the integration of both virtual and physical worlds of engineering. Mooresville's at the center of all this. And we talked about this in the beginning. For the kids in high school, like you, when we were talking, you said you wanted to go into the other side. You don't want to go on the driving. You want to go on the engineering side.
Yeah.
What advice do you give to them? If I was in high school right now and this is the path I wanted, what choice do I make?
Yeah.
Where do I go? What do I do? Who do I talk to? Are there industries in Mooresville? Are there schools in Mooresville? I know we have NASCAR Tech, UTI, right?
Yeah.
So, and most of those kids don't end up in motorsports, but they learn all of these skills. Once you learn all of the programs that they offer at schools like that, they can take you into the trades.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a huge resource we have here that we should promote better.
Yeah. My first sort of observation or how to recommend something to a young person. Number one, keep your options open. I think it's always dangerous to do what I did and get locked into something, really early and then just go down with all your might. There's nothing wrong with that, and I don't regret that. But I would say keeping your options open because the world is changing fast, and what you choose today may not be even relevant 5 years from now. But as you keep your options open and really develop good, well-rounded skills, you need to know how to use AI. You need to know how to program. You need to know how to do all these different things.
Write and sign your name.
Absolutely.
Keyboard.
Yes, absolutely. And just go get skills. And once you have skills, you can apply them in a whole bunch of different areas. And that's my recommendation. Focus on the skills.
Focus on the skills. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll have you back. And I want to thank everyone, and this is Beyond the Blueprint. I'm Brad Howard, and we will see you next week at 3 on Friday.